Twins have always carried a certain magic, a quiet mystery that feels almost otherworldly, but this set of twins took that mystery to an entirely different level. They spoke their own language, lived in perfect sync, and for most of their lives, they refused to speak to anyone else. Not out of defiance, but out of something deeper. Something unexplainable. Their bond was so intense, so unbreakable. It blurred the line between love and possession, identity and reflection. And when the world tried to pull them apart, reality itself seemed to unravel. What followed was isolation, obsession, and a chilling silence that ended in an unexplained death. A death that may not have been random at all. This is the haunting, beautiful, and terrifying story of the Silent Twins. Hey y'all, I'm Yaya. Thank you so much for tuning into this video, and today we are talking about the Silent Twins. Twins are already magical and mysterious, a quiet connection that feels almost beyond this world, but June and Jennifer Gibbons took that connection to an entirely different level. They lived in silence, spoke their own language, and understood each other in a way no one else could. And sometimes all we need is that, someone who truly understands us. And while most of us don't have a twin who can read our mind, we have companies like BetterHelp, who is the sponsor of today's video, as the next best thing. Joining BetterHelp has truly been a game changer for me. Having access to a licensed therapist means I'm not just venting into a void. I'm talking to someone who's trained to help me sort through life's chaos with compassion and zero judgment. Whether I'm celebrating a win or navigating a rough patch, I know I have a supportive professional in my corner, offering real guidance and creating a safe space where I can be completely open. BetterHelp makes therapy feel like it was finally designed with us in mind. No more awkward office visits or staring at ceilings while someone scribbles in a notebook. With BetterHelp, you get to open up in a way that feels comfortable and accessible, whether that's through video, phone calls, or even messaging from your couch, your bed, or wherever you feel safest. Scheduling is a breeze, and most people are matched with a licensed therapist within 48 hours. And if your first match isn't the right fit, no worries. Switching therapists is free and easy, so you can find someone who truly understands you. You can sign up for your therapeutic journey now by using the link provided in the description box below. For a special discount, betterhelp.com/BlaqueWitchYaya. You'll answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you with a professional who has years of experience helping people with struggles just like yours. Again, that's betterhelp.com/BlaqueWitchYaya. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. June and Jennifer Gibbons entered the world together on April 11th, 1963. Born at a military hospital in Yemen, they were the daughters of Caribbean immigrants, Gloria and Aubrey Gibbons, who were living overseas due to Aubrey's service in the Royal Air Force. The twins were healthy infants with no immediate signs of the silent bond that would later define them. In their earliest years, they babbled and played like any other children, but as they reached speaking age, their parents noticed something different. The girls' words came late, and when they finally did speak, their speech was oddly synchronized and difficult to understand. In the late 1960s, the Gibbons family had relocated from the Middle East to England and eventually to the small town of Haverford West in Wales. It was here, during the twins' early childhood, that seeds of their silence were planted. The girls developed a speech impediment that made their words sound like a rapid-fire chatter, almost a secret language. Unable to make themselves understood by others, the twins increasingly turned inward, communicating comfortably only with one another. They decided, okay, if nobody else can understand us, fine, I'll just talk to my twin.
We had a speech impediment. Our parents couldn't understand a word that we were saying. Nobody understood. So we stopped talking.
The Gibbons family story began in Barbados, where Gloria and Aubrey were born, where the parents were born. They immigrated to the United Kingdom in the early 1960s. Aubrey found work as a RAF technician, and Gloria was a homemaker, raising a growing family. By the time the twins arrived, they already had 2 older siblings, a sister named Greta and a brother named David, and would later have a younger sister named Rosie. In many ways, June and Jennifer's upbringing was loving and stable. Yet within the household, the twins' strong bond set them apart. They were inseparable. From the start, walking in lockstep, playing exclusively together, and often mirroring each other's movements. Family photos and memories showed 2 little girls side by side, almost reflections of each other. The parents grew concerned as the twins lagged behind in language development and social interaction. At home, the girls spoke in sing-song babbles and inside jokes no one else could decipher. The parents initially assumed the twins' close attachment was simply a quirky twin behavior, or perhaps a phase that they'll grow out of. They tried to encourage the girls to speak English clearly, but the combination of the twins' rapid speech, West Indian accent, and the impediment they had made it nearly impossible for others to understand them. In hopes of helping, doctors even suggested minor surgical interventions to correct the girls' oral muscles. The twins underwent a medical procedure meant to improve their speech, an experience that only caused them further pain and discouraged them from speaking even more. The more the family and doctors pushed the twins to communicate normally, the more June and Jennifer retreated to silence, finding solace in each other's company. At school, the Gibbons twins faced a world that could not comprehend them, literally and figuratively. In the 1970s, they were among the only Black children in their Welsh primary school, a glaring rarity that made them easy targets for bullying and ostracism, which made them even more targets because they weren't speaking, so people felt like they could take advantage of them. Classmates mocked their synchronized talking and strange whispered chatter. Teachers grew frustrated by their muteness. The daily torment grew so severe that school officials began allowing June and Jennifer to leave school early each day to avoid harassment from other students. Inside the classroom, the twins' behavior puzzled everyone.
The twins will queue and sit together for the meal and will often eat in unison. During meal times, the rest of the children take absolutely no notice of the 2 girls.
By their teenage years, they refused to read, write, or participate in lessons at all. As if they were doing a silent protest, they sat motionless, wide-eyed, and silent, communicating only with a glance between the 2. They'll give each other the side eye. Observers noted that the girls moved in unison, mirroring each other's posture and actions with an uncanny precision. They would just do the same thing at the same time as if they were the same person. They spoke to no one else, not even their parents or teachers, and would only whisper to each other in a rapid fusion of patois, English, and what sounded like their own invented words. It's almost like you could hear them and try to make out what they're saying, but you can't quite figure out what words they're using, as if it's someone trying to mock English. Like, you know how when someone's mocking Spanish, they may be like, it has the flow of Spanish, but they're not actually saying anything. That's what other people heard when they were talking. Like, I feel like you're saying something, but what are you saying? By the time they reached adolescence, their private language had become extremely indecipherable to others.
One day she'd wake up and be me. And one day I would wake up and be her. We used to say to each other, "Give me back myself. If you give me back myself, I'll give you back yourself."
In their minds, the twins seemed to share one identity between the 2 bodies, an intimacy that both comforted and tormented them. School medics and psychologists soon took notice of the Gibbons twins' odd, doll-like behavior. In 1974, a medic named John observed the girls during routine vaccinations. They did not flinch or cry like other children, but instead remained eerily impassive. John described them as doll-like, moving slowly, eyes blank. He was so alarmed that he contacted a child psychologist, and then this started. Over the next few years, June and Jennifer were evaluated by multiple therapists and specialists, All baffled and confused by the twins' elective muteness, psychologist Anne met the 13-year-old sisters in 1977 and was struck by the atmosphere between them. The twins refused to speak to Anne while she was there, but agreed to let her record them if she left them alone. And while listening to those recordings, it only deepened the mystery. The girls chattered freely to each other once unobserved in a rapid cadence that sounded like an entirely foreign tongue. And also sensed an unusual power dynamic at play. She noted that June often seemed on the verge of speaking to her, only to fall silent under Jennifer's steady, expressionless gaze.
I felt her power. The thought entered my mind that June was possessed by her twin.
Such assessments gave the Gibbons an almost supernatural aura in the eyes of professionals. Two minds intertwined in a way no one could unravel. In a drastic effort to disrupt this isolating bond between the twins, the decision was made to separate June and Jennifer in late 1977. The 14-year-old girls were sent to different boarding schools, with authorities hoping that apart from each other, each twin might be forced to come out of their shell and communicate with others. The result was a disaster, of course. Deprived of their one lifeline, each other, both sisters became nearly catatonic. At one school, it reportedly took 2 staff members just to pry June out of bed each morning. Once upright, she moved stiffly, her body heavy as a corpse, and barely responded to any type of stimuli. Jennifer was no better at her school. Instead of blossoming socially, each girl withdrew entirely into herself. The twins seemed unable to function apart. They were quickly reunited, ending the separation that nearly broke them, but also reinforcing the notion that June and Jennifer were psychologically bound together in a way that might never be undone. By their late teens, the sisters spent nearly all their time sequestered in their shared bedroom, speaking only to each other or occasionally to their younger sister Rose, in writing, not verbally.
We spoke to Rosemary, our sister, up until she was about 11. Then we stopped talking to her as well, and she moved out of the bedroom and moved into her other room, into her own bedroom. So we stopped talking to her, we stopped talking to our sister and brother and our parents.
So you must have been quite upset when they stopped talking.
Was it? Yeah, really upset.
They developed elaborate, imaginative games to pass the hours. The twins would line their dolls up and enact long, complex soap opera-style dramas, sometimes recording these pretend plays on tape as gifts for Rose, so giving her her own series to watch with the dolls as the actors.
Lydia was played by Rosemary, Gina was played by Jennifer, and Nina was played by June. I don't remember who they were. So at the end of this familiar happy story, and you say goodbye, and Nina first, goodbye, and Gina, goodbye, and Lydia.
To their parents, it was as though the girls had slipped into a fantasy realm of their own. They no longer even attempted to talk to Gloria or Aubrey. They didn't want to talk to their parents face to face. Instead, if they needed to communicate with their parents, the twins might slip a written note under a door. Their silence within the family was so complete, it felt like a deliberate ritual of exclusion. Indeed, at night, June and Jennifer would kneel beside their beds and pray aloud in unison for the strength to speak to their family.
We'd ask God to forgive our sins. We'd pray to not let us hurt our family by ignoring them, to give us strength to talk to our mother, our father. We couldn't do it. Hard it was. Too hard.
Despite their guilt, an invincible force seemed to hold their tongues whenever others were around. Linguistics have described cases like theirs as private languages between twins, though June herself would later insist they were simply speaking English, distorted by their speech impediment and rapid cadence. So she was like, I don't know why people couldn't understand us. We were speaking English. That's the only language we know.
We were talking in English, but we sped it up. No one could understand us.
Whatever the case was, to everyone outside the twins, their communication sounded like a gibberish or secret code. They spoke softly, so quickly that syllables ran together and often in a sort of mirrored unison. Years later, June asserted that the secret twin language was overstated, and she said, "We were talking in English, but we sped it up. No one could understand us." Still, at the time, even their own mother believed they had invented a language of their own. This only added to the mythology around the girls. They became known in the community as the Silent Twins, silent to everyone except each other. Friends were non existent. Teachers eventually gave up trying to engage them. In their self imposed isolation, June and Jennifer had only each other for comfort and occasionally for conflict as well. Despite, or perhaps because of their closeness, the twins' relationship was fraught with love and resentment in equal measure. They depended on each other utterly, yet each often felt trapped in the other's shadow. Jennifer's own journal echoed the anguish, describing how they had become fatal enemies in each other's eyes. In a chilling passage, Jennifer likened June to her shadow and wondered, "Without my shadow, would I gain life? Would I be free? My shadow I identify with a face of misery, deception, murder." These secret diary entries, only discovered much later, revealed the turmoil lurking beneath their unified silent front. Each girl believed she was possessed or controlled by the other, as if she couldn't live without her. It was a psychological bind that neither of them knew how to escape. Cut off from the world, June and Jennifer turned to creative writing as an outlet for the voices they kept inside. One Christmas in 1979, their parents gave the twins a pair of diaries as gifts. This simple present unlocked a flood. The sisters, 16 at the time, began writing exhaustively, filling notebook after notebook with their thoughts, fantasies, and stories. They even gathered together their pocket money to enroll in a mail-order creative writing course, hoping to hone their skills. Writing became their primary form of communication, not just with the outside world, but a new way to compete and cooperate with each other. Each twin would feverishly pen short stories, poems, full-length novels, then share them with her sister for critique or simply to impress. In the privacy of their room, they were no longer mute. They were storytellers, dreaming of fame. The tales that June and Jennifer spun were as strange as their own lives. They largely set their stories far from Wales, often in glamorous American locals like Malibu, California, and populated them with the young characters who indulged in bizarre or criminal behavior. In one short story, jealousy between pet parrots leads to dark consequences. In another, a disco atmosphere drives patrons into violent frenzies. The themes were frequently dark, involving crime, lust, and revenge, like this channel. By the early 1980s, each sister had produced a stack of novels and stories. June wrote one titled The Pepsi Cola Addict, about a teenager seduced by a teacher, and Disco Mania, where a local dance club incites patrons to madness and violence. The twins' writings were a curious mix of youthful fantasy and disturbingly horrific imagination. Eager for recognition, June and Jennifer took the bold step of self-publishing one of their novels. In 1982, at the age of 18, they gathered their unemployment benefits and managed to get The Pepsi Cola Addict printed by a vanity press. It was an isolated victory. The book had a very limited run and was not distributed widely. For years, it could only be found in a few libraries around the world. Still, holding a printed novel with one of their names on it was a thrill for the twins. I feel like for anyone it would be. Fame, however, indulged them. Their attempts to interest publishers and other manuscripts were unsuccessful. And by 1981, after years of writing in a vacuum, it seemed, the twins found themselves growing restless. They had written about life, love, and crime in their fiction, but they had hardly lived any of it out. And so the Silent Twins decided to step out their imaginations and into the real world, not by communicating with people, but by doing something a little fun, living out their stories. As soon as they turned 18, June and Jennifer began testing the boundaries of the world beyond their bedroom walls.
We said we started going out at night time, nightlife, hanging about streets, looking for trouble.
They experimented timidly at first, a bit of drinking, sniffing glue, even venturing out to meet some local boys who introduced them to some drugs and sex. These new experiences thrilled and frightened them. For once, they were doing things instead of just writing about them. But the twins' ventures also took a delinquent turn. They started with petty crimes, stealing items from shops, vandalizing property, and stealing bicycles or other odds and ends. Emboldened by getting away unseen, their silent, secretive nature ironically made them skilled sneaks. The sisters escalate their mischief in a quest for a bigger thrill, or perhaps some new material for their stories. Arson became their next obsession. In October 1981, residents of Harvard West witnessed a string of mysterious fires. One local tractor store went up in flames and a local shed was set ablaze, later attributed to the Gibbons twins' growing fascination with destruction. The crime spree did not last long. In 1981, June and Jennifer were finally caught red-handed after an attempted arson at a local technical college and was arrested. At 19 years old, the twins now face serious criminal charges. Their case proved as perplexing in court as it had in childhood. Here were two young women who barely spoke, accused of bizarre crimes with no clear motive. During their trial in 1982, the scope of their misdeeds became clear. Investigators tied the Gibbons sisters to some 16 counts of burglary, theft, and arson around their town. Facing a bunch of charges, June and Jennifer pleaded guilty. They were convicted of multiple counts of arson and theft, but the question remained of what to do with these nearly mute, odd defendants. The judge took the unusual step of committing the twins to Broadmoor Hospital, Britain's highest security hospital for the criminally insane, with no fixed release date. At just 19, June and Jennifer were handed an indefinite sentence at Broadmoor to be held at Her Majesty's pleasure. The outcome stunned many observers. Typically, a string of juvenile offenses like theirs, while serious, might have resulted in a few years at a youth detention center, but no other facility knew how to handle the silent twins. Several institutions reportedly refused to accept them because the staff found their behavior to be eerie and unsettling and just weird. And so in 1982, the Gibbons twins disappeared behind the imposing walls of Broadmoor, entering what would be the darkest chapter of their lives, of their 19 years of living. Life at Broadmoor Hospital was a far cry from the lenient atmosphere the twins had known at home and school. They knew that, hey, these girls don't talk, don't force them to talk. But here they were surrounded by some of Britain's most severely mentally ill and dangerous offenders. The regimen was strict. For the first time, June and Jennifer could not simply withdraw into a private world without interference. The hospital staff made sure of that. Doctors immediately began treating the twins with heavy antipsychotic medications, thinking perhaps the girls had an undiagnosed psychosis or schizophrenia underlying their elective mutism. The drugs had intense side effects. Jennifer developed blurred vision and neurological tics, and both sisters often appeared zoned out and sluggish. At times, the medications were adjusted to make them more functional enough that they could continue their diary writing and even join the hospital choir, which confused me because I'm like, how are they going to sing when they don't speak? But anywho, the twins remained physically and emotionally blunted by the chemical cocktail they had to ingest every day. Yet Broadmoor's strict environment also documented the twins' strange connection under new light. The hospital staff witnessed behaviors that were on the paranormal side. Nurses noted that June and Jennifer seemed to alternate eating. One twin would gorge herself one day while the other refused to eat at all. Then the next day they switched roles. The other twin would gorge herself out and the other one would just fast. Even when confined to separate cells on opposite ends of the facility, guards would sometimes find the twins frozen in identical poses as if they were mirroring each other from afar. These incidents reinforced the belief among staff that June and Jennifer shared some inexplicable psychic bond. Officially, their diagnosis was that they suffered from a severe identity and communication disorder, essentially dual elective mutism combined with a shared psychosis, in the view of some psychiatrists. So that's what they were thinking. Unofficially, many at Broader simply found them spooky. The twins spoke to no one inside the hospital except occasionally to ask for a pen or more paper for writing. To the nurses and fellow patients, they were like living ghosts, present yet silent, moving in tandem through the wards. The one bright spot in Broadmoor came in the form of Marjorie Wallace, a journalist who had been following the twins' story. Marjorie, working for the Sunday Times, had learned about the silent twins and was intrigued enough to investigate. Shortly after their arrest, Marjorie had visited the Gibbons home, where she found bags full of their writings in the bedroom, all those diaries and stories June and Jennifer left behind. Reading through the twins' vivid imaginations, Marjorie became determined to understand these silent young women who were dismissed as zombies by the outside world. She believed the key to reaching them was through their writing, their way of communication. Marjorie began visiting June and Jennifer in Broadmoor regularly, nearly every single weekend, effectively becoming their lifeline to the outside world. Within the sterile confines of Broadmoor, Marjorie Wallace slowly pulled the twins out of their shells. At first, during visits, the girls would sit silent and motionless, much as they had in other settings. Marjorie recalls one of her early meetings at the prison. 2 wards literally carried each twin into the visiting room, the girls' bodies rigid and eyes cast down as if they were corpse in prop chairs. But when Marjorie mentioned that she read their writings, she saw a spark in June's eyes flicker with interest, and with great effort, she whispered 4 unexpected words. "Did you like them?" It was the beginning of a slow thaw. Marjorie's genuine curiosity about their inner world, the poems and the novels no one else cared about, opened a door to communication. In time, the twins began speaking to her, shyly at first and then more freely. Marjorie found that humor was also a useful tool. Laughter, it turned out, was something the silent twins shared that outsiders rarely got to see. And over the course of a decade, Marjorie became perhaps the only outsider ever truly welcomed into June and Jennifer's isolated world. She tirelessly advocated for them, writing articles and pressing hospital officials to recognize behind the twins' bizarre behavior was creative, intelligent individuals longing for freedom. In the diaries they allowed her to read, she saw the depth of their psychological entanglement, the same chilling passages of mutual love and hate the twins had began recording for years. Marjorie observed that Jennifer seemed to be the dominant twin, often signaling June into silence or action. June, for her part, appeared simultaneously afraid of and dependent on Jennifer. The longer Marjorie knew them, the more she realized that as much as June and Jennifer cared for each other, each twin also longed to be free of the other. It was a dilemma no doctor had solved and that continued to torment the girls themselves. Their story, 2 intelligent, creative girls who isolated themselves in a shared fantasy world, raised questions about the nature of twin bonds and mental illness. Psychiatrists struggled to classify the Gibbons twins. Some labeled their condition as elective mutism, also selective mutism, paired with a shared psychosis, noting how deeply their identities were intertwined. Others saw evidence of possible autism spectrum disorder or schizophrenia, though neither twin fit those diagnoses neatly. And it was also thrown to the press that the twins just simply created their own private language only they understood. This notion of a secret twin language captured the public imagination. The ambiguity of their condition made June and Jennifer minor celebrities in psychiatric circles, a living experiment in nature, nurture, and the extremities of twin psychology. Marjorie Wallace, in addition to supporting the twins, helped bring their story to the world. In 1986, she published The Silent Twins, a book going over June and Jennifer's eerie journey, which garnered wide attention. The media was both fascinated and disturbed by the sisters. Psychologically, one of the most striking evaluations came not from a doctor but from June and Jennifer themselves. They began to articulate to Marjorie and in their diaries a chilling conclusion. For one twin to truly live, the other has to die. Over the years, the girls had grown to believe that their mutual dependence was a prison. Neither could escape as long as both survived. Marjorie would later reveal that the twins had a long-standing pact based on this idea, or according to her, June and Jennifer had agreed that if one of them died, the other must start speaking and embrace life among people. It was as if they saw their twinship as a zero-sum game. Only through the sacrifice of one could the other be free. This agreement agreement lingered in the background as 1993 approached and discussions arose about finally releasing the Gibbons twins from Broadmoor. In March 1993, after 11 long years, Broadmoor Hospital prepared to discharge June and Jennifer Gibbons. Thanks in large part to Marjorie's campaigning, the authorities agreed to transfer the twins to a lower security clinic in Wales, and if all went well, eventually to release them back to the community. The twins, now 29 years old, were cautiously optimistic. They will often whisper to Marjorie about the future of a normal life they might finally begin, but mingled with the hope was an air of dread. In the weeks leading up to the transfer, Jennifer started saying some strange things. During Marjorie's regular visit one weekend, Jennifer broke her usual quietness and said plainly, "Marjorie, I'm going to have to die." Marjorie was startled and tried to laugh it off. "Don't be silly. You're just about to be free from Broadmoor. Why would you have to die? You're not ill." But Jennifer only replied, "Because we've decided." In that unsettling moment, Marjorie realized the twins were serious about the pact they had spoken of. She said, "I got very frightened because I could see that they meant it." Marjorie alerted the doctors, urging them to watch the twins closely, but her concerns were largely dismissed. On the day of the transfer, March 9th, 1993, the ominous prophecy came true. As the twins were being driven from Broadmoor to the new clinic in Wales, Jennifer slumped onto June's shoulder, unresponsive. At first, June thought her sister had just fallen asleep. They were finally free and the ride was tiring. She gently murmured to Jennifer that they were out at last. Jennifer's only reply in a faint voice was, "At long last, we're out." Then she closed her eyes and slipped into what appeared to be a coma. By the time the transport van arrived at the Caswell Clinic, Jennifer could not be awakened. Panicked staff rushed her to a nearby hospital, but it was too late. That evening, Jennifer Gibbons was pronounced dead at 6:15 p.m. The cause of death was baffling, as everything else in the twins' story. Jennifer had died from acute myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle. There were no drugs or poisons in her system to explain it, no sign of injury or illness. In fact, Jennifer had been perfectly healthy just hours before. One doctor noted that perhaps years of powerful medications had damaged her immune system and her heart, but June had taken the same medications and was perfectly fine. In the end, Jennifer's death remains a medical mystery. To those who knew of the twins' pact, the eerie timing suggested that Jennifer willed herself to die so that June might live freely. It was almost as if one soul had voluntarily departed so the other could stand alone. At the inquest, June described how, in the day before her death, Jennifer had been acting strangely, slurring her words, saying she felt like she was dying. On the ride to the new clinic, Jennifer had her eyes open but slept, motionless on June's lap like a still doll. When Marjorie Wallace visited a few days later, she found June in an unsettling calm state.
"Today, my beloved twin sister Jennifer died. She is dead." Her heart stopped beating. I kissed her stone-colored face. I went hysterical with grief.
Yet, aside from the grief, June understood that Jennifer's death had fulfilled their dark promise they had made to each other. The silent twins were silent no more because now only one remained. June Gibbons underwent a startling transformation. Almost immediately, she began speaking to doctors, nurses, family, anyone who would listen, as if a decades-long spell had been lifted. The remaining twin was no longer withdrawn and mute. She was sociable, calm, and seemingly relieved. Broadmoor Hospital, which had contained them for over a decade, had no reason to hold June any longer. A few weeks after Jennifer's funeral, where she was laid to rest in a grave in Haverford, Wales, June was released from the hospital. True to the pact, she would live for both of them now.
I feel that I'm living for her. This is what she would have wanted, for me to go on living for her. And every day I wake up and say to myself, well, there's one more day for me, but one more day for my sister as well. And I live for her. And what I see and do, she does as well. She's not missing out on nothing because she's with me.
Isn't that quite a big responsibility?
It's a big responsibility, but it's making me stronger. Because the more I think about her, the more stronger I feel. The stronger I get. Knowing that she is lying somewhere and sleeping, and I'm still alive, I feel that's a privilege, really. I mean, am I lucky or something to be still alive when she's gone? I thought I'd never get over her death. But it's made me 10 times stronger to carry on for her sake.
By all accounts, June went on to lead a quiet but ordinary life, the normal life that her sister's sacrifice had hoped to grant her. In the years after 1993, she moved back to West Wales, not far from her parents, and gradually integrated into the community. No longer did she isolate herself or refuse to speak. Neighbors and acquaintances found her friendly, if a bit shy, nothing like the uncanny silent twin. Psychiatric services eventually deemed her stable and ceased regular check-ins. June had, it seemed, truly been free from the invisible bonds that tied her to Jennifer. Now that the pact was broken, June was finally her own person, and she chose to speak to tell their story to ensure that Jennifer's death was not in vain. In the aftermath, the Gibbons family wrestled with complex emotions. They had their daughter back, at least one of them, but the ordeal left scars. In a later interview, the twins' older sister, Greta, expressed bitterness at how the system treated June and Jennifer. She felt that Broadmoor had effectively ruined her sister's lives and neglected Jennifer's health to the point of tragedy. Greta even contemplated legal action, but she knew doing that wouldn't bring her sister back. Instead, the family focused on healing. For June, that meant living quietly and maintaining her privacy. She rarely speaks publicly about the past now. Journalists check in from time to time. Marjorie Wallace herself remained a close confidant, but June generally avoids the limelight. In a rare reflection, she acknowledged the strange destiny she and her twin fulfilled. The story of the silent twins did not die with Jennifer. The silent twins' unique case continues to fascinate psychologists, artists, and the public. Over the years, several adaptations of their story have emerged. The most recent one was in 2022. A feature film, The Silent Twins, premiered, bringing their tale to a new generation. Each retelling reinforces the almost mythical quality of their saga. Two sisters shut off in their own world, creating art and chaos in equal measure, bound together until fate tore them apart. Today, June Gibbons lives a life that would have seemed impossible in her youth, an ordinary one. She's in her early 60s, residing in Wales near her family, known to those around her as a kind woman who will chat with anyone who greets her. If not for the extraordinary chapter of her early life, she would be utterly remarkable, and perhaps in her triumph. After years of only having a voice on paper, June now uses her real voice freely. She carries Jennifer's memory with her, telling reporters that she feels her twin's presence around her and cherishes it, but no longer in a way that controls her. The saga of June and Jennifer Gibbons forces us to ponder the delicate balance between closeness and individuality. Their story is one of sisterhood taken to both enchanting and horrifying extremes, and ultimately two souls who believed that one had to give up her life so the other could truly live. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Let me know your thoughts down below, and like I always say, as above so below, as within so without, as the universe so the soul. Until next time, you guys, I'm Shay.